Title: Everyone laughed when the florist took the mafia boss's wedding bouquet. Then she showed him the black ribbon tag. The mafia boss's bride reached for the white rose bouquet, and the florist took it from her hands. The ballroom went silent. Crystal chandeliers burned above 200 guests. Champagne stood untouched in tall glasses. A string quartet held one trembling note too long, then stopped. Mara Vale stood at the edge of the aisle in a dark green florist apron, rain still shining on her sleeves, one hand wrapped around the stems of the bouquet she had just stolen from the future Mrs. Belanti. "Excuse me?" Bianca Armand said, her smile turning thin. Mara did not give the flowers back. On the right side of the aisle, Luca Belanti turned his head. He was 42, Italian-American, clean-shaven, and dressed in a black three-piece suit beneath a long black overcoat he had not removed despite the heat of the room. A heavy signet ring rested on his hand. 2 bodyguards stood behind him like doors that could walk. Mafia, not myth. The guests remembered how to be afraid. Bianca laughed sharply. "She delivers flowers," she said. "Now she thinks she can stop a wedding." Mara turned the bouquet over. Under the white satin wrap, tied tight against the rose stems, was a black ribbon tag. Luca went completely still. Mara lifted the tag where he could see it. "This is not a wedding bouquet," she said. "This came from a memorial order." Chapter 1. Mara Vale had learned flowers were honest when people were not. Roses bruised where they had been gripped too tightly. Lilies stained fingers yellow no matter how clean the gloves were. Hydrangeas collapsed if a florist lied about water. Tulips kept growing after they were cut, bending toward light with stubborn little necks that made every arrangement look alive by morning. People were harder. People smiled over invoices they planned not to pay. Brides called at midnight to say blush looked too emotional. Mothers-in-law asked for white lilies after being told the groom's sister had been buried under them. Hotel managers spoke about vendor discretion when they meant unpaid labor with a prettier ribbon. Mara knew the language. She owned Veil and Stem, a narrow flower shop 2 blocks behind the Bellerio Hotel, with a green awning, a cracked tile floor, a cooler that hummed like a tired truck, and rent that arrived faster than mercy. She was 32, unmarried, and too busy keeping flowers alive to pretend she needed rescuing. On most nights, that was enough. This was not most nights. The Belanti Armand engagement gala had ordered white roses, gardenias, and Italian ruscus in the kind of quantities that made accountants faint and florists suspicious. 28 centerpieces. 2 staircase sprays. 6 mantle arrangements. 1 bridal-style presentation bouquet, though there was no actual wedding that night. Engagement theater, her assistant Juno had called it, sliding the order sheet across the counter. Mara had read the client notes twice. No lilies. No black ribbon. No memorial stock. No funeral cooler items. She had written those notes herself in red pencil after the Bellerio coordinator mentioned, casually, that Luca Belanti had lost his younger sister, Ariana, years earlier and did not allow white lilies or black mourning ribbon in any family celebration. Then why mention them? Mara had asked. The coordinator had blinked. "I thought you should know." Mara had looked at the order again. White roses. White gardenias. Cream silk. Pearl pins. Elegant enough to be boring. Safe enough, if everyone followed the sheet. That was always the problem. At 5:40 p.m., 2 hours before the gala, Mara stood in her shop cooler with her sleeves rolled up and a professional stem cutter she used only on flowers. The air smelled of wet leaves, cold metal, rose water, and the faint sweetness of freesia from a birthday order waiting for morning. The wedding-style bouquet lay on the prep table. White roses. Gardenias. Ruscus. Cream satin wrap. Perfect. Too perfect, maybe, but Mara had made it, and she trusted her hands. Juno came in from the alley, carrying the last box of boutonnieres. Bellerio driver is outside. Early? 10 minutes. Mara frowned. Who? Not Tomas. New guy. Gray coat. Says Armand Events sent him. Mara set down the ribbon spool. Armand Events was Bianca Armand's company, which meant family ego had inserted itself between florist and hotel. That usually led to lost vases and invoices contested by women wearing earrings larger than the shop's sink. He signs the pickup sheet, Mara said. Full name, time, box count. Already told him. And? He smiled like I was cute. Mara's expression flattened. Juno smiled. So I made him write slower. Good girl. Do not say that like you raised me. I trained you during prom season. That counts. Mara went to the rear door and watched through the small glass pane. The driver stood near the van with a clipboard under his arm. Gray coat. Black gloves. No florist tags on the vehicle. The Armand logo had been stuck to the side panel with magnetic strips, slightly crooked. Temporary. Cheap. Not the way Armand Events usually branded anything. Mara stepped outside. Rain misted the alley, catching in the light over the door. Across the narrow lane, the bakery's back door was shut. Someone had left a crate of day-old bread near the bins. The city smelled like wet brick and expensive trouble. Name? Mara asked. The driver looked at her badge, then her face. Elias. Last name? I am just here for pickup. Then pickup can wait for a full name. His smile thinned. Lorne. Mara wrote it herself on the second line of the delivery sheet. Elias Lorne. Too smooth. You are early, she said. Miss Armand requested final inspection. At the hotel? At the hotel. The flowers go directly to the Bellario floral room, not Armand events. Plans changed. Flowers hate plan changes. He did not laugh. That was the first real warning. Men who found florists beneath them usually laughed too much, especially when they wanted something. This one saved his reactions as if they cost money. Mara made him wait while she checked every box. Centerpieces. Stair sprays. Mantelpieces. Boutonnieres. Tablexon. Bouquet. She lifted it last and ran her fingers under the satin wrap out of habit. Smooth. Cream ribbon. Her knot. She looked at the driver. No one opens this until I arrive. You are coming? I install my own gala orders. Miss Armand said the hotel staff could place them. Miss Armand does not own my stems until I am paid. His eyes cooled. Mara smiled without warmth and handed the bouquet to Juno instead of him. Load it in the front passenger seat, she said. Not the cargo area. The driver objected. Mara did not care. By 6:15, she was in her own van behind him, following the Armand vehicle through slick downtown streets toward the Bellario. She had done this before when an order felt wrong. Rich people loved outsourcing blame. A florist who stayed with the flowers until they were placed had fewer mysteries to solve later. At 6:27, 3 blocks from the hotel, the Armand van turned left instead of right. Mara sat up. No, she said to the windshield. Juno, beside her, looked up from the invoice tablet. What? Bellario loading is right. The van turned into a service court behind the Grand Lumen, the Bellario's sister hotel. Different kitchen. Different floral room. Different coolers. Mara parked behind it. The driver got out fast. So did she. Wrong hotel, she called. He kept walking. Mara followed him into the service entrance, past a line of rolling racks and silver carts covered in linen. A prep cook looked at her apron and did not stop her. People carrying flowers were invisible in hotels. That was one reason they saw everything. She found the van's cargo door open. The bouquet was gone. Her stomach tightened. Where is it? The driver turned with empty hands. What? The bouquet. Hotel took it. Which hotel? Bellario. We are not at the Bellario. He shrugged. That was when Mara saw the black ribbon on the floor. Not much. A 4-inch scrap near the wheel of a linen cart. Matte black. Narrow. Pre-cut. Memorial ribbon. Her shop used black ribbon only for funeral pieces, condolence sprays, and one very strange theater commission involving ravens. The Bellanti order had none. She had checked. Mara picked up the scrap with tissue from her apron pocket. The driver stepped toward her. Juno's voice came from behind them. Mara. Not loud. Warning enough. Mara turned. At the far end of the service corridor, Bianca Armand stood with a hotel captain and a tall woman in silver heels. Between them, on a prep table beneath harsh fluorescent lights, lay the Bellanti bouquet. Open. Unwrapped. Being retied. Mara saw white roses, ruscus, satin. And lilies. White lilies tucked deep near the center where the cameras would not catch them until Bianca lifted the bouquet. Funeral lilies. Her hand closed around the black ribbon scrap. Bianca turned as if feeling the stare. For 1 second, both women looked at each other across a corridor built for service workers and secrets. Bianca smiled. Mara knew then this was not a mistake. Chapter 2. Luca Bellanti had agreed to the engagement gala because alliances sometimes wore flowers before they wore chains. He had not agreed because he loved Bianca Armand. Love had not entered the negotiation, which was one reason the negotiation was tolerable. Bianca was beautiful, clever, politically valuable, and ruthless in a way her family mistook for elegance. She did not ask him for tenderness, and Luca did not insult either of them by pretending to offer it. The gala would announce intent. Contracts would follow. The Armand family would get access to Bellanti shipping corridors, and Luca would get votes in 3 unions, 2 judges who pretended not to know his name, and a quieter border between old enemies. It was clean enough. That bothered him. Clean arrangements often hid the best dirt. He stood in the Bellario ballroom at 7:40 p.m., listening to a councilman describe charity with the passion of a man hoping not to pay taxes. The room glittered around him, white roses, crystal, champagne, silk, black suits, bodyguards posted like punctuation at the doors. No lilies. He had checked once when he entered. He hated that he still checked. Ariana had been 22 when she died. His little sister had loved white lilies because she had been young enough to believe beauty could remain innocent after people used it for mourning. Their mother had filled the chapel with them. Luca had stood beside the coffin and smelled lilies until the scent became a wall inside his chest. Since then, no bell anti-celebration had allowed them. Everyone knew. Everyone who mattered. Bianca knew. She approached him now in an ivory gown that could have been bridal if anyone felt honest enough to call the gala what it was. Her blonde hair was swept low. Pearls shone at her ears. Her smile was perfect and the way locked windows were perfect. "You are checking the flowers again," she said. "Yes. Still? Always. You cannot keep grief on a guest list forever." Luca looked at her. Bianca's smile did not move, but something behind it adjusted. "That was unkind," she said. "I apologize." He believed she knew how to apologize. He did not believe she had ever been sorry. "Do not mention Ariana tonight," he said. Her lashes lowered. "Of course." The string quartet began the next piece. Guests shifted toward the aisle that had been arranged for the presentation. Not a wedding, not yet. But enough ceremony to make photographers happy and families feel invested. Luca hated ceremonies. They gave liars choreography. His advisor, Marco Vale, leaned close. "The bouquet presentation is in 3 minutes. Why is there a bouquet presentation at an engagement gala?" "Armand tradition. Convenient how traditions appear when vendors are paid." Marco smiled carefully. "The room expects it. The room often expects foolishness. It is symbolic. So is an empty plate." Marco did not know what to do with that. Luca looked toward the side entrance where hotel staff waited with trays, flowers, and the quiet panic of people who could be fired by a glance. He saw no florist. Only Bellario staff. "Where is the vendor?" "Which vendor?" "Flowers. The hotel placed them. I asked for the florist to install." Bianca preferred hotel discretion. "There. A small thing." Luca turned his head toward Marco. "When?" "This afternoon." "You changed my instruction because Bianca preferred something." Marco's face tightened. "It was a floral matter." "Everything is a matter if someone lies through it." Before Marco could answer, the ballroom doors opened. Bianca stepped into the aisle. A hotel captain carried the bouquet toward her. The white roses were immaculate. At first, Luca saw nothing wrong. Then the room shifted again. Not because of the bouquet. Because a woman in a dark green apron had entered the ballroom through the side service door, moving faster than hotel staff should move in front of old money. She was not tall, but she used space like she had paid rent on every inch. Brown hair was twisted into a clip that had surrendered sometime in the rain. Her sleeves were damp. One cheek held a faint green mark from leaf polish. She carried no tray, no apology, and no visible fear. Bianca saw her. The hotel captain saw her. Luca watched the captain go pale. The woman reached Bianca just as the bouquet did. Bianca extended both hands. The florist took the bouquet first. For one strange second, no one understood what had happened. Then Bianca said, "Excuse me?" The florist did not bow. Did not smile. Did not scramble to frame the interruption as a mistake. She held the bouquet close, fingers already moving under the satin wrap. Luca's guards shifted. He lifted one hand. They stopped. "Put that down," he said. The florist looked at him. Most people looked at Luca and saw power first. Some saw danger. Some saw money. Some saw the stories other people told in low voices. This woman looked at him as if he were another difficult client standing between her and a damaged order. "Interesting." "No," she said. Bianca laughed. "She delivers flowers," Bianca told the room. "Now she thinks she can stop a wedding." "This is not a wedding," Luca said. The room did not enjoy that clarification. The florist turned the bouquet over. Her thumb found something beneath the satin. She pulled. A black ribbon tag slipped free from the stems. The effect on Luca was immediate and private, which meant the entire room felt it. Black ribbon. Not decoration. Not gala. Memorial. "This is not a wedding bouquet," the florist said. "This came from a memorial order." Bianca's smile vanished. "That is absurd." The florist held up the tag. "Then tell me why my bouquet was taken to the Grand Lumen, opened on a hotel prep table, stuffed with white lilies, and retied with black funeral ribbon." The words struck the room one by one. White lilies. Black funeral ribbon. Luca felt Ariana's name before anyone said it. The ballroom blurred at the edges. Not from weakness. From memory with teeth. He smelled chapel lilies. Heard his mother break around a sob. Saw his sister's hand beneath white satin, too still for a girl who had always moved even in sleep. The florist saw his face change. So did Bianca. Bianca recovered first. Luca, this vendor is clearly unstable. He removed. The florist lifted the black tag higher. There was writing on it. Small. White ink on black ribbon. Luca did not step forward. He could not. Not yet. Read it, he said. The florist looked at him, and for the first time, her expression shifted. Not pity. Permission offered without softness. Ariana Belanti, she said. Memorial cooler. Hold for private family handling. The ballroom broke into whispers. Luca's hand closed around nothing. Bianca whispered, I did not know. The florist said, you were in the service corridor when they retied it. Bianca turned on her. You are lying. No. I am angry. Something cold and clean moved through Luca. Anger, yes. But under it, another small thing. The florist had not said she was frightened. She had not said she was offended. She had said angry, and every inch of her looked built to use that anger carefully. Your name, Luca said. Mara Vale. Marco, his advisor, flinched at the surname. Mara saw it. Luca saw her seeing it. Again, interesting. Mara Vale, Luca said. Bring the bouquet to the table. Bianca stepped between them. Luca, do not let staff turn our announcement into drama. He looked at her. She stopped speaking. Move, he said. She moved. Mara carried the bouquet to the long central table and laid it down on white linen. The black tag rested beside the roses like a bruise. Luca approached slowly. Not because he feared flowers. Because he feared what he might do if he moved too fast. Mara seemed to understand that speed was dangerous. Do not touch the lilies yet, she said. A guard looked at Luca for permission to be offended. Luca did not give it. Why? If they came from a memorial cooler, the stems will have a different cut and water line. I need to show you before everyone claims I switched them. Everyone? Her eyes flicked to Bianca, then Marco, then the hotel captain. The expensive ones first. The corner of Luca's mouth almost moved. It did not reach a smile. He leaned over the bouquet. Mara separated roses with a florist's pick and exposed the lilies tucked deep inside the center. They were white, unopened, and cold. A black ribbon loop held them in place beneath the satin. Luca's throat tightened. Those were not in my order, Mara said. I wrote the floral sheet. No lilies. No black ribbon. No memorial stock. Someone took my bouquet after pickup, added these, and retied it so Miss Armand would lift it in front of you. To make me react. Yes. Why? I do flowers, Mr. Belanti. You do motives. You are doing well enough. Her eyes met his. Something passed between them too quickly to name. Then Marco said, Sir, perhaps we should clear the room. Mara's hand stilled. Luca looked at her fingers. No, she said. Marco stared. Excuse me? You clear the room, story start. Rich people love a hallway version. You need them to see the tag before they decide I am crazy. Marco's face hardened. You do not advise him. Someone should. The silence after that was dangerous. Luca should have rebuked her. Instead he looked at the black ribbon tag on the table and thought of Ariana, who used to tell him every locked room in their family needed one rude woman with a chair. Continue, Luca said. Mara did. Chapter 3. Mara had not planned to accuse a mafia boss's future wife in front of 200 people. Her evening plan had involved installing flowers, checking water tubes, correcting the inevitable hotel staff damage, invoicing Armand events, buying soup on the way home, and falling asleep with the lights on because she was 32 and sometimes too tired to perform adulthood properly. Now she stood at the center table of a Bellario ballroom with Luca Belanti watching her hands and half the room hoping she would be destroyed before dessert. Fine. She had worked Valentine's Day with a broken cooler and 300 men who thought roses fixed betrayal. She could handle a ballroom. The lilies were inserted after pickup, she said. She pointed to the stem ends without touching them. My shop cuts wedding stems at a sharp angle and wraps them with wet cotton before transport. These lily stems are blunt cut and cold burned at the edge. They came from a memorial cooler, likely held near freezing. Bianca laughed once. You expect anyone to believe a florist can tell that? Mara looked at her. You expect anyone to believe a bride cannot tell funeral ribbon from wedding satin? The guests whispered again. Good. Whispers were bad for private truth but useful for public pressure. Luca said, Memorial cooler where? Grand Lumen Service Court. You saw this? I saw the van turn there. I followed. I saw Miss Armand in the service corridor near the open bouquet. I saw a woman in silver heels retie the stems. I saw black ribbon on the floor. Bianca lifted her chin. Then where is your proof? Mara pulled a folded tissue from her apron pocket and opened it. The black ribbon scrap lay inside. Small. Ordinary. Enough. Luca's advisor Marco went pale around the mouth. Mara clocked it. She clocked everything now. Marco's surname was Vale, too, which could be coincidence, except coincidence had a bad habit of arriving with expensive shoes. Luca noticed her glance. You know him? No. Marco said, my name is common. Nothing about you looks common, Mara said. That got a startled breath from someone down the table. Luca almost smiled again, which did nothing helpful to Mara's concentration. He was not handsome in the soft way. He was too controlled for softness, too watchful for ease. But when something like amusement moved behind his eyes, it suggested a locked house with one light still on. Dangerous thought. Ignore it. She turned back to the bouquet. There will be a cooler pull sheet, she said. Memorial stock is logged separately. If the lilies came from Grand Lumen, someone signed them out. Bianca looked at the hotel captain. Too fast. Luca followed the look. The captain began sweating under his collar. Name, Luca said. Peter Hales, the captain whispered. Who signed out the lilies? I do not know. Mara picked up the black tag with tweezers from her apron. This tag knows. Marco snapped, enough theatrics. It has a prep number. That shut him up. Mara turned the tag over. On the back, under a smear of cooler wax, was a tiny stamped code. GLMEM 417. Grand Lumen Memorial Cooler, Order 417, she said. Luca did not move. His stillness was becoming more frightening than anger would have been. Whose order? Mara looked at him. There was no kind way to say it in that room. There was only a clean way. Ariana Belanti hold stock. Bianca said, that is impossible. Not terrible. Not, who would do that? Impossible. Mara heard the difference. So did Luca. Why impossible, he asked. Bianca's mouth parted. Marco stepped in. Because those records should be sealed. There it was. Mara looked at Marco. You knew the records existed. He realized too late what he had said. Luca's head turned slowly. Marco. One word. No volume. The air bent around it. Marco swallowed. I meant only that family memorial records are usually private. Usually. Yes. But this code came from memory? No. Then how? The room held itself still. Mara did not interrupt. She had done her part for the moment. Working women survived powerful rooms by knowing when to speak and when to let a lie fill its own grave. Marco looked at Bianca. Bianca did not look back. That was answer enough for Mara. Maybe not for a judge. Enough for a sister's brother. Luca removed one glove slowly. Mara did not like that. His bare hand flexed once near the table, and the signet ring caught the chandelier light. Not a weapon. Worse in some rooms. Authority. No one leaves, he said. The bodyguards moved to the doors. The guests froze. Mara stepped closer to the bouquet. Luca looked at her. Do not move the flowers, she said. His eyebrows lifted. You think I was going to? I think grief makes hands stupid. The ballroom went dead quiet. No one spoke to Luca Belanti that way. Mara had not meant it as an insult. That was the problem. Truth came out faster than diplomacy when she was tired and angry. Luca stared at her. Then, incredibly, he looked down at his own hand. It was inches from the lilies. He drew it back. What should I touch? He asked. Mara's breath caught. Not because he obeyed. Because he asked. The table edge, she said. If you need to hold something. He placed his hand flat on the table edge. The gesture was small. The effect was not. The Mafia boss had been told where to put his hand by a florist in a green apron, and he had done it. Every woman in the room noticed. Every man did too, but with less understanding. Now, Luca said, voice controlled, tell me how to prove who ordered this. Mara nodded once. We start with the cooler. Chapter 4. They did not clear the ballroom. Mara insisted, and Luca surprised everyone by agreeing. Instead, he moved the guests away from the central table and had the quartet play again, softly, because silence gave panic too much room. Champagne was removed. Doors were held. Phones were collected from the inner circle but not from every guest, because Mara said making 200 rich people surrender phones would create more spectacle than truth. Luca listened. That kept unsettling her. He looked like a man built to command stone, weather, and old debts. He should have dismissed every word from a florist with wet sleeves. Instead he kept turning toward her as if her practical knowledge had become the only stable object in the room. Grand Lumen Cooler, he said as they crossed the service corridor between hotels. Mara walked beside him, not behind. His bodyguards hated it. She could feel them hating it, which did not make her shorter. Memorial prep room, she said. Different from event floral. Why? Because funeral flowers are often held colder and longer. Wedding flowers get handled for shape and color. Memorial stock gets handled for timing and condition. Also because grief has its own paperwork. He looked at her. You say that like you know. I do. He waited. She did not elaborate. They reached the Grand Lumen service elevator. The hotel captain, Peter Hales, used a key card with shaking hands. Bianca walked behind them with her lawyer now present, her silver heels clicking like small accusations. Marco stayed near Luca but had gone quiet. Mara watched his hands. Clean nails. No flour residue. A faint black smudge on the side of one thumb. Ribbon wax. Maybe. She looked away before he noticed. The memorial cooler was in the lower prep level, past catering storage and beside a room full of folded chairs. Cold air breathed through the door seal. On the wall hung clipboards, laminated handling notes, and a printed sign asking staff to respect the dignity of memorial orders. Mara almost laughed. Hotels loved dignity when it could be laminated. Open it, Luca said. Peter did. The cooler smelled of water, stems, cold plastic, and lilies. Luca stopped at the threshold. Mara felt it before she saw it. His breath changed. The scent hit him like a hand around the throat. For a man like Luca, the reaction was tiny, one pause, one tightening at the jaw, one slow blink. But Mara stood beside flowers for a living. She knew when a stem bent under weight. You do not have to go in yet, she said quietly. Behind them, Bianca made an impatient sound. This is becoming dramatic. Mara turned. Then stopped performing. Bianca's eyes sharpened. Luca did not move, but his attention came back. I will go in, he said. That is not the same as needing to. I need to see. Then look from here first. He stared at her. Not angry. Frustrated, maybe, that she kept placing choices where his instincts expected commands. From here, she repeated. He looked into the cooler. Racks of white lilies. Carnations. Condolence sprays. Wrapped stems. Black ribbon spools. Gray buckets labeled by order numbers. Mara stepped inside first. Cold wrapped around her arms. She checked the tags along the left rack. GLMEM, 411. 414. 416. 417. Empty. Of course. Order 417 was pulled, she said. Peter whispered, it might have been completed. Then the completion sheet will say where it went. He did not answer. Mara turned to the clipboard. The line for 417 had been signed out at 6:02 p.m. By M. Vale. The room changed again. Luca saw it over her shoulder. Marco Vale said, that is not my signature. Mara said, no. Everyone looked at her. She pointed at the signature. It is too round. Someone copied the name from a printed staff list or email. Real signatures get lazy under pressure. This one is trying to be pretty. Are you a handwriting expert now? Bianca asked. No. I sign delivery sheets 80 times a week and catch rich assistants forging approvals every Friday. Luca looked at Marco. Did you sign? No. Did you know the order number? Marco hesitated. Mara saw it. Luca saw her see it. Yes, Marco said finally. Why? Because your sister's memorial stock remained on family hold. I review those records quarterly. Luca's voice dropped. I told you to close that account. Marco said nothing. The cooler seemed colder. Mara's anger shifted shape. This was worse than a prank, worse than a social ambush, worse than flowers weaponized for power. Someone had kept a dead woman's name active in a hotel memorial system, like a key on a hook, waiting for the right night to use it. Who had access to the account? Mara asked. Marco looked at her like he wanted to erase her from the room. Luca answered. Marco. Me. My aunt, before she died. The family office. Bianca said softly, and your mother. Luca turned to her. Mara went still. There. Not mother as hook, not mother as plot center, but a name dropped to redirect grief toward a safer target. Luca's expression turned unreadable. Mara stepped between his line of sight and Bianca's face. Not fully. Not dramatically. Enough. No, she said. Bianca blinked. Excuse me? You do not get to throw another woman's name into this cooler because you are cornered. The air went sharp. Luca looked at the back of Mara's head. She could feel it. Bianca laughed without humor. You know nothing about this family. I know you just reached for the easiest grieving woman in the room and hoped he would look away from the signature. Bianca's face colored. Mara turned to Peter. Where is the security camera for this cooler? There is no camera inside. Outside. Service hall. Show it. Peter looked at Luca. Luca did not look away from Mara. Show her. Her. Not me. That mattered, and it should not have. Peter led them to a security office that smelled like burnt coffee and carpet glue. The guard on duty looked like he wanted to vanish into his monitor bank. Luca's men took positions near the door. Bianca's lawyer began objecting. Nobody cared. The footage from 6:02 showed a hotel staffer in a black vest entering the cooler with a clipboard. Not Marco. Not Bianca. The staffer came out with a bucket of lilies. 2 minutes later, he handed the bucket to the woman in silver heels. Bianca's assistant. The assistant carried it toward the Grand Lumen service court. Mara leaned closer. Pause. The guard paused. Zoom on the staffer's hand. He did. Black smudge on thumb. Ribbon wax. He tied the tag, Mara said. Peter swallowed. His name is Devon. Where is Devon? Luca asked. Peter did not answer fast enough. Mara already knew. Gone, she said. Peter nodded miserably. Bianca's lawyer said, this proves only a handling error. Mara turned. Handling errors do not walk through 3 buildings, copy a memorial order, alter a bouquet, and land in a Mafia engagement ceremony. Luca's eyes moved to her face. She realized too late she had used the word Mafia in front of hotel security, lawyers, and several people committed to pretending. Well, everyone knew. Pretending was unpaid labor, and she was tired. Who paid Devon? Luca asked. No one answered. Mara looked at the black ribbon scrap in her tissue. Florists are paid after delivery. Hotel staff are paid on payroll. Event assistants are paid by invoice. If Devon ran, someone paid him in cash. You know this how? Because people who steal flowers are cheap. Luca's almost smile returned in the security monitor glow. Find Devon, he told his guard. The guard laughed. Mara said, no. Everyone looked at her again. She was starting to become used to that, which could not be healthy. Know what? Luca asked. Find him, yes. But do not scare him first. He used my sister's memorial order. Maybe. Or he took $200 and a false name from a woman in silver heels because his rent is late and nobody told him what the flowers meant. Bianca scoffed. You defend everyone in an apron. Mara looked at her. No. I ask who benefits when working people take the whole fall. Luca was silent. For a moment, Mara thought she had pushed too far again. Then he said, how would you ask him? Bianca closed her eyes in visible disbelief. Mara breathed once. With the tag on the table. Not in his face. And with a promise that if he tells the truth before your people terrify him, he keeps his job unless he knew the name on the order. Luca's jaw tightened. And if he knew? Then he made a choice. You draw lines. Flowers wilt when people do not. He looked at her for a long second. You are very inconvenient, Mara Vale. I bill hourly after midnight. This time he did smile. Small. Real. It hit her harder than it should have. Chapter 5. Quiet turn. Luca did not enter the memorial cooler until 1:13 a.m. By then Devon had been found in a break room 2 floors up, crying into a paper cup of water while insisting he thought the order belonged to a private rehearsal. He had been paid in cash by Bianca's assistant and told to sign Emma Vale because the family office had cleared it. He did not know Ariana's name until Mara placed the black tag in front of him and asked him to read it aloud. Then he broke. Mara believed him. Luca wanted not to. That was written in every hard line of his body. He did not punish Devon immediately. That was written in the fact that the young staffer left with his manager instead of a bodyguard. Progress, Mara thought. Dangerous, expensive, emotionally constipated progress. After that, the ballroom was finally cleared. Bianca was taken to a private room with her lawyer. Marco was separated from her. The hotel manager began discovering the spiritual benefits of cooperation. Guests left with enough partial truth to prevent Bianca from controlling the whole story. Mara should have gone home. Her shop cooler needed checking. Juno had texted 7 times, including one message that read, if you die at a Mafia gala I am keeping your copper watering can. Her feet hurt. Her hands smelled of lilies, which she hated now on Luca's behalf and resented him for making her care. Instead she stood outside the Grand Lumen memorial cooler with Luca Bellanti. He had asked for no one else. That was not entirely true. He had not asked. He had simply stopped walking when Mara stopped, and his men had understood something she did not want to define. The corridor hummed with refrigeration. Far away, someone rolled a cart. The hour was too late for flowers and too early for forgiveness. You do not have to go in, Mara said. Luca looked at the cooler door. You said that before. It remains true. Truth is not always useful. It is almost always useful. People just dislike the invoice. He turned his head. Do you ever soften anything? Peonies. Hydrangea stems. Bad news for old women who already know. Not for me. You have enough people softening things for you. His gaze returned to the door. Yes. The agreement was quiet. It did something to Mara's chest. She folded her arms to keep from reacting. Why lilies? She asked. Ariana loved them. Before they became funeral. Things can be 2 things. Not in my house. The answer came too fast. There it was. Not arrogance. Injury with architecture around it. Mara leaned back against the wall. My father hated chrysanthemums. Luca looked at her. He said they looked like flowers trying too hard. Then he died in October, and every cheap sympathy arrangement in the city showed up with chrysanthemums because people buy what is available. Did you throw them out? No. I cut them shorter and put them in coffee cans because grief is expensive and I was 24. Luca absorbed that. You kept flowers he hated. I kept what people meant. Silence. Not empty. Working. Mara pointed at the cooler door. You keep treating grief like a locked room. But someone just used the key because you refused to look inside. His face changed. Most men reacted badly to being told their pain had become useful to someone else. Luca's first reaction was the flash of danger Mara had expected. His second was harder. He listened. Say that again, he said. No. His eyes cut to hers. No. You heard me. I am not here to make the sentence prettier. For 1 second, the corridor seemed to hold its breath. Then Luca looked back at the door. What should I do? The question was quiet enough to be private. Mara looked at the man beside her, black suit, signet ring, controlled hands, grief so old it had become policy. He could have ordered half the city to bend before sunrise. He did not know how to open a flower cooler. First, she said, do not go in like you are entering an enemy room. It feels like one. I know. Do you? Yes. He did not ask how. That earned him more than an answer would have. Second, she said, you breathe through your mouth for the first 10 seconds if the scent is too much. Not because you are weak. Because lilies are dramatic. His mouth almost moved. Dramatic. Very. They shed pollen on everything and act innocent. You dislike them. Professionally. Personally? Depends who ordered them. He looked at her. Third, she continued, before the look became too warm for a cold hallway, you do not touch anything until you choose one stem. Not the order tag. Not the ribbon. One stem. Why? Because you need one real flower before you face the paperwork. He was silent for a long time. Then he opened the cooler door. Cold air came out. So did the scent. Luca stopped. Mara did not touch him. Every instinct she had from years of comforting grieving clients told her where a hand might go, sleeve, shoulder, wrist. She used none of them. Men like Luca were touched constantly by fear, need, ambition, and strategy. Comfort could become another hand trying to own his reaction. She stood beside him instead. He breathed once. Twice. Through his mouth, as instructed. Then he stepped inside. The lilies stood in white buckets along the left wall. Mara followed, leaving the door open. Luca looked at them as if they might speak. She used to steal them from hotel arrangements, he said. Mara smiled faintly. Good for her. She said rich people never noticed missing flowers. Smart girl. She was. The word took the temperature down another degree. Mara picked up a clean stem cutter from the prep shelf and handed it to him handle first. He stared at it. You want me to cut one? I want you to choose whether to. What is the difference? Everything. He looked at her then. Not as the florist who had stopped his gala. As a woman standing with him inside a room he had avoided for years, offering no pity and no escape. Just a tool, a choice, and enough respect not to hurry him. He chose one white lily near the back. Small. Unopened. Not yet dramatic. He cut the stem badly, too high and at the wrong angle. Mara did not correct him. That was difficult. He noticed. Bad cut? Terrible. For the first time that night, Luca laughed. It was not loud, but it was real enough that the cooler seemed less cruel. You did not correct me. Grief first. Technicletti. When later? When you stop looking like you might apologize to a flower. He held the lily carefully. Ariana would have liked you. Mara looked away. You do not know that. She liked women who corrected me. Did she find many? Not enough. Mara's throat tightened. She busied herself with the black tag on the shelf, checking the order code, the ribbon wax, anything that did not involve the way Luca's voice changed around his sister's name. What now? He asked. Now you keep the real stem. Not the rigged bouquet. And the tag? Evidence. And Bianca? Also evidence, if you ask the right questions. You think I should not punish first. I think punishment is what men use when they want to feel finished. He looked at her. And justice? Justice is slower and has better records. You sound like you have been waiting to say that to someone. I own a flower shop. Everyone owes me money. The almost smile returned. She should not like it. She did anyway. Chapter 6. By morning, the black ribbon tag had become a map. Devon's statement led to Bianca's assistant. The assistant led to an Armand Events invoice coded as Heritage Floral Integration. The invoice led to Marco Vale, who had approved access to the Bellanti Memorial records 3 weeks earlier under the phrase Legacy Review. Mara hated rich language. It was always hiding blood or bills. The evidence spread across a Bellario conference table because Luca refused to take it to his family office until Mara had photographed every tag, stem, invoice, and cooler sheet in neutral light. He did not like being instructed. That was obvious. He accepted it anyway, which was more interesting than obedience. Neutral light matters, he asked as she moved the black tag closer to the window. Warm light hides wax. Cold light hides water stains. Neutral light lies less. You speak as if light has morals. Light has behavior. People assign morals after invoices. Luca watched her hands. Mara pretended not to notice. Her hands were not pretty in the way gala women curated prettiness. They were nicked from thorns, rough near the thumb, stained faintly green where eucalyptus oil refused to leave. She usually liked them. They were useful hands. Under Luca's attention, they became something else. Seen. She did not have time for that. Marco approved the records, Luca said. Did he know what Bianca planned? He says no. Do you believe him? No. Then why is he still breathing your air? Luca's eyes lifted. Mara realized what she had said. That was not advice. No? That was irritation. I find your irritation clarifying. That is a dangerous hobby. Most of mine are. She should have rolled her eyes. She nearly smiled instead. No. Focus. Bianca entered at 8:10 a.m. in a gray suit, looking like she had not slept and was furious at everyone who might notice. Her lawyer followed. Marco was already seated at the far end of the table, face hollow. Mara stood by the window with the black tag in a clear evidence sleeve. Bianca saw her and stopped. Why is she here? Luca did not look at Bianca. Because she knows the flowers. This is family business. You put family business in her bouquet. I did not. Mara said, then you will not mind explaining why your assistant carried order 417 from the memorial cooler. Bianca's lawyer spoke. Miss Armand will not respond to unsupported claims. Mara lifted a folder. Supported claims are in order by timestamp. Luca's mouth changed. Mara ignored it because she was enjoying herself too much already. 602, she said. Devon signs out Memorial Order 417 under the copied name M. Vale. 606, your assistant receives the lily bucket outside the cooler. 611, Armand Event Service Court camera shows the bucket placed beside my bouquet. 618, the bouquet wrap is opened. 624, black ribbon is tied under the satin. 627, I arrive and see you near the prep table. Bianca looked at Luca. You are letting a vendor prosecute me. No, Luca said. I am letting the vendor read. Mara liked that so much she almost forgave the word vendor. Almost. Bianca sat. Fine, she said. The flowers were symbolic. The air changed. Even her lawyer looked at her. Luca's voice remained low. Symbolic of what? Of grief controlling you. Mara went still. Bianca continued, and perhaps because she had lost the room, she decided to burn it. Everyone knows Ariana is the locked door in your head. Your rivals know. Your allies know. You cannot marry, negotiate, or host a dinner without someone checking whether a flower will upset you. I wanted you to face it publicly. To prove you could function. Luca did not move. Mara knew stillness by then. This was not control. This was impact. She stepped forward and placed the black ribbon tag on the table between them. No, she said. Bianca looked up. Excuse me? That is not what you wanted. You have no idea what I wanted. You wanted him to lose control in front of witnesses so the revised alliance terms could be presented as necessary management. Bianca's pupils shifted. There. Mara leaned over the table, palms flat. You wanted the room to say he was unstable. You wanted his people embarrassed enough to sign whatever kept the Armand family close. You used a dead woman's flowers because you did not think service people could tell memorial ribbon from wedding satin. Silence. Luca looked at Mara as if the floor had moved and she was the only fixed point. Bianca whispered, you are very proud for a flower girl. Florist, Mara said. No one cares. Luca said, I do. 2 words. Very quiet. Mara felt them too deeply. Bianca did too, judging by her face. Luca stood. The engagement is over. Bianca's lawyer began to speak. No, Luca said. The lawyer stopped. The Armand family will receive a formal notice of breach by noon. Marco's access to family memorial and archive records is revoked. Devon keeps his job pending review because he told the truth before my men found him. Your assistant will be questioned with counsel. And you will not say my sister's name again. Bianca stood slowly. You would throw away an alliance over flowers? Luca looked at the black tag. No. Over the belief that my grief could be used as a leash. Mara's throat tightened. Bianca turned to her. Enjoy being useful. He likes useful things until they ask for too much. Mara held her gaze. Then I will ask exactly. Luca almost smiled. Bianca saw that too. It was the final insult. She left with her lawyer and what remained of her dignity arranged around her like a torn veil. Marco did not leave. He looked at Luca. I did not know she would use Ariana's name. Luca said nothing. I approved the legacy review because Bianca said the memorial holds were a liability. I thought she meant shutting them down. You thought, Luca said. Marco flinched. You did not ask me, Luca continued. You did not ask why the account was still open. You did not ask who had the right to touch it. You decided grief was paperwork. Marco lowered his head. You are dismissed from family advisory pending review. Marco looked stricken. Luca. Leave. He left. The room emptied slowly until only Luca, Mara, the tag, and 2 guards outside the glass wall remained. Mara gathered her photos and notes because motion was safer than feeling. You did well, she said. Luca looked at her. Did I? You did not destroy furniture or people. A high standard. In your circles? Apparently. He breathed something like a laugh, then looked at the black ribbon tag. What do I owe you? Mara's spine stiffened. For the flowers? Full payment, rush correction fee, emergency evidence consulting fee, and replacement labor for Juno, who has been running the shop while I stand here ruining your engagement. He stared at her. Then he laughed. This one was real. Send the invoice. I will. And for the rest? There is no rest. Mara. Do not use my name like a door. His expression changed. Not offended. Checked. I apologize. That stopped her more effectively than arrogance would have. Good, she said, because anything else would come out too soft. May I come to your shop later? Why? To pay the invoice. Use email. To return the lilies properly. That was better. Annoyingly better. Call first, she said. I will. Use the front door. I will. Do not bring bodyguards inside unless they buy something. This time his mouth tilted. Understood. Chapter 7. Luca came to Vale and Stem at closing time with 1 white lily, 2 bodyguards, and no overcoat. The bodyguards stayed outside and bought nothing, which Mara considered rude but strategically tolerable. The lily was wrapped in plain brown paper. No black ribbon. No ceremony. He held it like an apology he did not know how to deliver. Mara was behind the counter, washing buckets. Her shop smelled of eucalyptus, wet stems, and the end of a long day. Juno had gone home after announcing that if the Mafia boss came by, Mara was legally required to text every detail. Mara had not texted. Yet. You called first, she said. You told me to. Men say that as if following instructions deserves cake. Does it? No. Then I am here for the lily. She dried her hands. You want it arranged? I want it placed somewhere it does not become a weapon. That was an honest answer. She took the lily from him. For Ariana? Yes. Was she dramatic? He looked surprised. Very. Then she would hate 1 lily alone. The comment might have been too much. Luca's eyes narrowed. Mara waited. He looked at the single stem. Then, slowly, she would. What did she like with them? Blue delphinium. She said it made white look less behaved. Mara smiled before she could stop herself. Smart girl. You said that before. She keeps earning it. He watched Mara move through the shop, choosing delphinium, seeded eucalyptus, and 1 small branch of rosemary because remembrance should smell like a kitchen, not only a chapel. Rosemary, he asked. For memory. I know the symbolism. Good. Then I do not have to lecture you. Would that disappoint you? A little. He smiled faintly. Mara arranged the stems in a simple glass cylinder, no ribbon. She placed it on the side table beneath the shop window, not at the center. There, she said. Not funeral. Not wedding. Just hers. Luca stood before it. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he reached into his jacket and removed an envelope. Mara's entire body rejected it. Absolutely not. He stopped. It is payment. Then leave it on the counter and step away like it might bite. He did exactly that. She opened it. Invoice paid in full. Rush fee included. Staff overtime. Replacement product. Emergency evidence consulting fee, which she had added out of spite and now saw he had paid without comment. Also a second paper. She looked up. What is this? A correction. To what? The Bellario vendor record. It states that Vale and Stem identified and preserved evidence, prevented misuse of memorial materials, and fulfilled the original floral contract despite interference by Armand Events. Mara read it twice. Rich institutions loved quiet corrections that changed nothing and protected everyone important. This one had names. Dates. Responsibility. You made them put it in writing. Yes. Why? Because otherwise they would say you were difficult. I am difficult. You were correct. The words moved through her like warmth under a door. Those are not opposites, she said. I am learning. She folded the paper carefully. Thank you. You are welcome. Do not ruin it by offering to buy my building. He paused. Mara stared. Luca. I was not going to offer. You thought about it. Briefly. How briefly? Long enough to know you would hate me. Good instinct. I have those occasionally. She leaned against the counter. He looked too large in the small shop, but not ridiculous. That was a problem. Some powerful men made working rooms feel smaller. Luca made the room feel watched, but not owned. The difference was dangerous. What do you want? She asked. At this moment? Yes. To stand here for another minute without making your life harder. Mara did not have a prepared answer for that. So she said the truth. That is not the worst answer. High praise. Do not become dependent on it. Too late. His phone buzzed. He did not look at it. She noticed. You can take that. I do not want to. Want and should are different flowers. Which is this? Probably should. He checked the screen. His face changed by 1 degree. Business. The kind that bleeds? The kind that pretends not to. Go. He put the phone away. May I come back? For what? To see if the lily behaves better with blue. She should have said no. Call first. I will. Bring no envelope. Never again. He left through the front door. Mara watched him pass the window, black suit under a gray evening sky, bodyguards falling into place behind him. He looked back once at the lily in the window. Not at her. The restraint did more damage than a stare would have. Juno texted 3 seconds later. Did he come? Mara replied. He paid the invoice. Juno. That is not what I asked. Mara looked at the lily, the delphinium, the rosemary, and the correction letter on the counter. No, she thought. It was not what anyone had asked. It was more inconvenient. Chapter 8. The second time Luca came to the shop, he brought no flowers. He brought coffee. 1 black for himself. 1 with oat milk and cinnamon for Mara, which meant Juno had betrayed her preferences within 48 hours. She folds under pressure, Mara said, taking the cup. I asked politely. Worse. She said you forget lunch when working sympathy orders. Juno is fired. She said you would say that. Mara took a sip. It was perfect. Annoying. Luca stood near the counter while she built a wedding arch sample for a couple who wanted wild but controlled, which Mara considered an accurate description of every expensive marriage. He watched without interrupting, which was rare enough to become suspicious. Why are you here? She asked finally. Because you said call first. That explains the method, not the motive. I wanted to ask about Ariana's memorial account. Her hand slowed. What about it? I closed the hotel hold. Good. But there are outstanding flower credits. Years of them. My family prepaid annually. No one used them. That is between you and the hotel. I would like to redirect them. To what? A fund for funeral flowers for people who cannot afford them. Mara looked at him. He did not look away. That sounds dangerously decent, she said. I was hoping you would criticize it before I make it foolish. She set down the eucalyptus. Do not name it after Ariana unless you are ready for every arrangement to be about your grief instead of theirs. He nodded once. Do not make people apply with tragic essays. Agreed. Do not use only lilies. I assumed. Do not let funeral homes mark up the flowers because your name is attached. How do I prevent that? You use independent florists, set flat rates, and pay within 7 days. Will you run it? No. The answer came fast. Too fast. He accepted it anyway. Will you advise it? Maybe. Paid. Obviously. Obviously, he repeated. Do not sound amused. Women are allowed to invoice grief. That may be the title of your memoir. My memoir will be called Do Not Touch the Centerpieces. He smiled. Mara liked it. She had a problem. He stayed an hour. They discussed flower access, funeral poverty, churches that delayed services until families paid, funeral homes that upcharged ribbon, and the quiet cruelty of people saying, simple is fine, when they meant, we cannot afford beauty. Luca took notes. Not on his phone. In a small black notebook. You carry paper? Mara asked. Phones are too easy to search. That was almost charming until the reason. I can work on that. Please do. Near closing, a customer came in for apology roses. He spoke loudly, as men buying apology roses often did, explaining to no one that women made things complicated. Mara handed him carnations. He frowned. I asked for roses. You asked for flowers that say you are sorry. Carnations say that? These say you are sorry enough not to perform romance you have not earned. The man stared. Luca turned away toward the window. His shoulders moved once. Mara narrowed her eyes after the customer left. Were you laughing? No. Liar. Silently. That is still billable. Add it to the invoice. I will. He looked comfortable in the shop by then, which should have bothered her more. Not comfortable like he belonged. Comfortable like he respected that he did not, and still wanted to stand there properly. When he left, he paused at the door. Mara. Yes? Would you have dinner with me? There it was. No crisis. No ballroom. No evidence table. No dead sister's name between them. Just a question in a flower shop after closing, with buckets drying upside down and eucalyptus leaves on the floor. Her heart moved before her judgment approved. Why? He did not answer quickly. Good. Because you are the only person I know who can make mercy sound like procedure, he said. Because you corrected my grief without humiliating it. Because I want to hear what you say when no one is trying to weaponize flowers. Mara stared. Did you write that down? No. It was too good. I have been practicing honesty. It occasionally improves. She wanted to say yes. That made her cautious. One dinner, she said. His face changed, very slightly, as if he had been waiting without letting himself expect. 1. Public place. Of course. No restaurant you own. That removes several. Good. No bodyguards at the next table? They can sit in the same restaurant if they order and tip like normal people. I will warn them. Do that. Friday? Sunday. Wedding deliveries Friday. Sunday. And Luca? Yes? No lilies. His expression softened in a way that did not look weak at all. No lilies. Chapter 9. Their first dinner was at a family-owned Thai restaurant where the owner knew Mara because she had once saved his daughter's wedding orchids from a freezer malfunction. Luca arrived in dark charcoal instead of black. Mara noticed. He noticed her noticing. Too cheerful, he asked. Reckless. I will try to survive. The bodyguard sat 2 booths away and ordered noodles. Mara watched one of them try to understand spice levels with the seriousness of a man negotiating treaty terms. He will suffer, she said. Yes. You warned him. No. Cruel. Educational. Dinner should have been awkward. It was not. That was alarming. Luca asked about flowers, but not in the decorative way. He asked which stems traveled badly, which brides cried for reasons unrelated to weddings, which funerals were hardest, what clients misunderstood about beauty. Mara answered more than she meant to. He listened as if every practical detail might reveal a law of the universe he had missed. When she asked about his work, he did not insult her with lies. He did not give details either. He said, I keep certain kinds of violence away from people who would otherwise meet it alone. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I become one of the kinds that should have stayed away. Mara set down her fork. That was honest. Too much? No. But not enough to become noble. I know. Do you? I am learning. She liked that answer. She hated that she liked it because it was becoming a pattern. After dinner, he walked her to her van. This vehicle is older than some of my cousins, he said. It has better manners. Does it start? Usually. That is not confidence. That is florist math. He stood beside the driver's door but did not open it for her until she handed him the keys. She watched him wait. You can open it. Thank you. Do you always wait for permission now? With you, yes. The answer was simple enough to be dangerous. Mara unlocked the van herself because she needed to do something with her hands. Good night, Luca. Good night, Mara. He did not kiss her. That annoyed her for 3 blocks. Then she laughed at herself in the empty van. The second dinner happened a week later. The third was coffee after a funeral order consultation, where Mara told him about the first funeral arrangement she ever made after her father's death. It had been for a woman who loved yellow daisies, and Mara had cried into the bucket because grief for strangers sometimes found the cracks grief for family had left behind. Luca did not touch her hand until she turned it palm up. Then he did. His fingers were warm, careful, and scarred in places that did not match a soft life. You make beautiful things for hard rooms, he said. That is the job. No, he said. That is you. She looked down at their hands. Careful. I am trying. Try harder. I can. And he did. 2 months passed in small permissions. He came by the shop after calling first. She met him for dinner when schedules allowed. He funded the funeral flower program through a trust that did not bear his name, then let Mara yell at the draft contract until it respected independent florists as paid professionals instead of charitable decorations. He never sent lilies. Once, he sent a single packet of delphinium seeds with a note. for White to look less behaved. Juno screamed when she saw it. Mara pretended not to. The first kiss came in the shop cooler, which Mara considered inconveniently on brand. They had been arguing about whether the funeral flower fund should include transport costs for rural services. Luca said yes. Mara said yes, but with local florist choice. They both said yes too firmly, which meant the argument was not about the fund anymore. "You are impossible," she said, standing between buckets of roses and eucalyptus. "You say that when you mean I am not wrong." "No, I say different things when you are not wrong. This is impossible." "Mara, do not use that voice." "What voice?" "The one that makes simple things complicated." He stepped closer, then stopped. Always stopped. It was going to ruin her. "May I kiss you?" he asked. Her breath caught. The cooler hummed. Flowers waited in cold water around them, dramatic and innocent. "Yes," she said. He kissed her like a man who understood permission was not a small thing. Careful first. Then warmer when her hand moved to his jacket. He tasted faintly of coffee and restraint, and Mara discovered restraint could break beautifully when invited. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. "No lilies," she whispered. He laughed quietly. "No lilies." Chapter 10. Bianca's final attempt came not through flowers but through reputation. She gave an interview to a society magazine that never printed truth if access could be substituted. She described the broken engagement as a private grief episode exploited by a vendor with ambitions beyond her station. She did not name Mara, which somehow made it worse. Everyone in the right circles knew. By noon, 3 upcoming clients had paused contracts with Veil and Stem. By 1, a wedding planner suggested Mara issue a polite clarification. By 2, Juno had created a list titled People We Hate in purple marker. Mara was calm until the 3rd cancellation. Then she went into the cooler and threw a bundle of bad carnations into the compost bucket with enough force to alarm the roses. Luca arrived at 3 because Juno called him. Mara was not pleased. "I did not call you," she said. "I know. You should not come every time something happens." "I agree. Yet here you are." "Yes." "Why?" He held up a magazine. "Because this is not something happening. This is something being done." She hated how much she needed that distinction. "I can handle it." "I know. Then why are you here?" "To ask how you want it handled." That stopped her. He was learning too well. It was making anger harder to use. Mara took the magazine and read the paragraph again. Vendor. Ambitions. Station. Station. The word sat under her skin like a thorn. "She thinks I want her place," Mara said. "Do you?" "No." "Then say what you want." "My contract's back." "Good." "My name not whispered like I seduced a grieving man for flower money." "Also good." "And I want every woman who works with her hands to stop being called ambitious like it is theft." Luca's eyes warmed. "There she is. Do not look pleased." "I am furious." "I know. You enjoy me furious. I respect you furious. Enjoyment is a separate matter." "Luca." "Yes? I want to answer publicly, but not defensively." "Then do that." "With what platform? My shop newsletter?" "You have a gala next week. Charity garden luncheon. Hosted by..." She looked at him. "Bianca's aunt." "Convenient. You are suggesting I walk into another rich room with flowers and a point." "No. I am suggesting you walk into a room you already contracted, do excellent work, and choose whether the point comes with it." Mara considered. Then she smiled. Juno, from behind the counter, whispered, "Oh, that is her scary face." The charity garden luncheon ordered pastel arrangements for 12 tables and a main arch. Mara kept the pastels because she was not unprofessional. She added one thing. At each table, tied beneath the vase where only seated guests would notice, she placed a small black ribbon tag. Not memorial ribbon. Matte black, printed in white. Ask who did the work. No names. No accusations. No scandal. Just a sentence. By the time Bianca's aunt found the first tag, half the room had already found theirs. Women turned vases. Men frowned. Servers smiled into their trays. Wedding planners took photos. 3 florists Mara knew texted her within 10 minutes. Luca attended, not as her escort but as a guest whose presence made several people reconsider their posture. Bianca was there. Of course she was. She approached Mara near the arch after lunch. "Still fond of little tags?" Bianca asked. Mara adjusted a spray of sweet peas. "They keep telling the truth." "You think this makes you look dignified?" "No. My work does that." Bianca's mouth tightened. Luca appeared beside Mara, but not in front of her. That mattered. Bianca looked between them. "You cannot possibly think this lasts." Mara said, "The flowers?" "This." "You mean him listening to me?" Bianca smiled. Mara smiled back. I do not need it to last for your comfort. Luca looked at Mara as if she had rearranged the room again. Bianca left without a clean exit line, which was satisfying. By evening, 2 cancelled clients returned. By morning, Vale and Stem had 6 new inquiries, from women who wrote some version of I Want the Florist with the black tags. Mara pretended not to be moved. Luca brought coffee and said nothing. Smart man. Chapter 11. The confession came in a greenhouse. Not a grand one. Not one of the glass palaces rich families used for winter citrus and quiet affairs. This greenhouse belonged to the funeral flower program's first community partner, an old nursery run by 3 sisters who argued constantly and grew the best delphinium in the county. Mara and Luca drove out to inspect the first funded harvest. He drove. She allowed it after confirming the car had no ridiculous privacy partition and that his driver did not look wounded by temporary unemployment. The greenhouse was warm, damp, and alive. Rows of blue delphiniums stood beside rosemary, stock, snapdragon, and buckets of white lilies grown for families who wanted them and no one else. Luca stopped before the lilies. Mara stood beside him. He did not flinch now. That did not mean grief was gone. It meant grief had somewhere to stand. Ariana would have stolen these, he said. The sisters would have chased her. She would have enjoyed that. I believe it. He turned toward her. There was soil on his sleeve because one of the sisters had handed him a tray and he had accepted it without looking betrayed by labor. His black shoes had mud on them. He looked less perfect and more present. Mara liked him too much. That had become the truth. Not convenient. Not safe. Not simple. But true. I love you, he said. The greenhouse did not go silent. Water dripped. Fans hummed. One of the sisters shouted about mislabeled rosemary in the next row. The world kept working. Mara appreciated that. Grand silence made ordinary truth too heavy. She looked at Luca Bellanti, Mafia boss, dangerous man, difficult student of permission, brother of a dead girl who loved white lilies, and the only man who had ever made her feel more seen without making her feel displayed. That was not a question, she said. No. Good. You do not have to answer. I know. I wanted you to know before I found a way to make the sentence strategic. Her throat tightened. That is the most you thing you have ever said. Unfortunate. Accurate. He waited. Mara looked at the delphinium, at the lilies, at his muddy shoes, at her own hands. There was a small cut near her thumb from wire. Green stain near her nail. Work on her skin, always. She lifted her hand. He took it only after her fingers reached his. I love you too, she said. His face changed. Not into triumph. Into awe. He tried to control and failed. That failure was beautiful. He bowed his head over her hand and kissed her knuckles. That was dramatic, she said, though her voice did not have much strength. I am Italian and emotionally damaged. She laughed. He smiled against her fingers. Then one of the sisters shouted, if you two are done having feelings, someone important looking is standing on the irrigation hose. Luca looked down. He was. Mara laughed so hard she had to lean against a table. Luca stepped off the hose with dignity that fooled no one. Later, in the car, he asked, may I take you to dinner tonight? We are in mud. After mud. Romantic. I am expanding my range. Good. I like range. He took her to a small place near the river with no lilies, no reporters, and a waiter who treated Luca like any other difficult reservation because Mara had called ahead and threatened to bring her own flowers if they fussed. They ate. They argued about whether delphinium was too fragile for summer heat. They kissed outside under a street lamp, not hiding, not performing. For the first time in years, Luca walked through the city and did not scan every flower arrangement for a ghost. He still scanned exits. Mara did too now, sometimes. Love did not remove danger. It taught you who would tell you where the door was. Chapter 12. 1 year after the black ribbon tag, Vale and Stem opened a second cooler. Not for weddings. Not for hotels. For the flower fund. It sat in the back room beside the old one, labeled in Mara's handwriting. Community orders. Ask first. The first order inside was not lilies. It was sunflowers, blue delphinium, rosemary, and 3 white roses for a woman named Mrs. Alvarez, whose grandson had come in with cash folded into a library receipt and said his grandmother hated sad flowers. Mara had not charged him. The fund had. Paid in full. 7 days. No pity discount. No tragic essay. Just flowers for a hard room. Luca came by before the delivery left. He wore black, because some habits did not need to die for a man to grow. But his tie was dark green, chosen by Mara months earlier after she informed him that looking like a beautiful threat every day was visually lazy. Juno approved the tie. Mara pretended not to. You are early, she said. I was told community orders leave at 8. You were told by a traitor named Juno. Juno shouted from the front, I prefer communications director. Luca looked at the new cooler. Ask first, he read. Program rule. Good rule. Mine often are. Yes. He said it without irony. That still got to her. On the wall between the two coolers hung the original black ribbon tag, pressed under glass. Not centered. Mara would not allow centered shrines. Shrines made people dramatic and impractical. Beside it was the ribbon scrap from the service corridor, the corrected Bellario vendor letter, and a small photograph of the first delphinium harvest. Luca touched the edge of the frame, not the tag. I hated this thing, he said. You were supposed to. Now it reminds me someone noticed. Mara leaned against the work table. That is a better use for it. He turned to her. Ariana's birthday is next week. Mara went still. What do you want to do? He smiled faintly. That is what I was going to ask you. I asked first. You usually do. And? I want to bring flowers to the river, not the chapel. Lilies? 1. With delphinium. And rosemary. Mara nodded. Good. Will you come? There were many ways to answer. Yes as lover. Yes as florist. Yes as witness. Yes as the woman who had first held up the black tag and made him look where grief had been used against him. She chose the simplest. Yes. He took her hand. No one in the shop commented because Juno had threatened the staff with unpaid bucket cleaning if anyone ruined the moment. Outside, the delivery van waited. The sun was low and gold over the wet street. The city smelled of coffee, rain, and stems. Mara picked up Mrs. Alvarez's arrangement and carried it to the van herself. Luca opened the back door after she nodded. Permission. Still the most romantic habit he had learned. When the van left, they stood together under the green awning of veil and stem. Across the street, a woman hurried with a child by the hand. A man in a suit bought last-minute apology flowers and looked properly frightened of Juno. The funeral fund cooler hummed behind them, practical and alive. Do you ever regret taking the bouquet? Luca asked. Mara looked at him. No. Not even when Bianca called you ambitious? Especially not then. Why? She considered. Because she was right about one thing. His eyes sharpened. Which thing? I am ambitious. He smiled slowly. Good. Not for her place. No. For mine. Luca brought her hand to his mouth and kissed the inside of her wrist, where a faint green stain from eucalyptus still marked her skin. I love your place, he said. The words were quiet, but they held. Mara looked through the shop window at the black ribbon tag under glass, the coolers, the buckets, the invoices clipped in their proper rows, the flowers waiting to be chosen by people who needed beauty to behave honestly for once. Then she looked at Luca. I love you, she said. He never took that sentence for granted. She could see it every time. His face changed, not with surprise anymore, but with attention. As if love were a fresh stem that still needed water, a door that still needed asking, a room where grief and desire could stand without one owning the other. I love you too, he said. Inside, Juno yelled, if this is going to become kissing, do it away from the tulips. They are sensitive. Mara laughed. Luca did too. The sound still surprised people who knew his name. It no longer surprised her. Later that evening, after closing, Mara took the black ribbon tag down from the wall for cleaning. Luca watched from the counter while she wiped the glass. Careful, he said. It is a tag, not a relic. It changed my life. Then it should tolerate dusting. He accepted that with the grace of a man who had learned correction could be affection if offered by the right woman. Mara set the frame back in place. The black ribbon tag lay flat under glass. Small. Ordinary. Impossible to ignore. It had once been used to turn grief into a leash. Now it marked a different rule. Ask first. Look closely. Do not mistake protection for ownership. And never laugh when the florist takes the bouquet before the mafia boss sees what is tied beneath the flowers.